Welcome everybody to DC Domingo, to a much upbeat TV review episode. We are very upbeat. Compared to last week, man, that was a horrible week for everybody. I think us DC fans, we've been putting up with a lot of crap, and usual disclaimers. We will be talking about liberal stuff, and I already swear plenty. So yes, there's also the disclaimer that we do use naughty language. But anyways, we are in a happy mood. Not only because Wonder Woman's getting great reviews, which will be in our next podcast. It's just going to be all about her, basically. We're going to celebrate all the awesome stuff. We're going to do a movie review. We're going to talk about what's going on social media about the movie. We're going to have fun. We're going to celebrate the awesome Wonder Woman in our lives. And I'm trying to see if, other YouTube people want to do like a lengthy podcast, maybe using, Google Hangout or something. We might be able to do that if the technology god's willing. But anyways, we're going to have only a few topics here. We're going to talk about the DC TV, obviously. We're going to talk about the upcoming Black Lightning TV show and the DC streaming network for superheroes, which is awesome. I am going to review two documentaries. One is by Hulu Originals about Bill Finger, and the other one is Superheroes Decoded by the History Channel. And I'm going to end it with an actual comic book review. I know, it's pretty damn awesome, right? I'm going to review The Button. I mean, I'm pretty damn sure that people already have a bunch of spoilers and stuff, but I am going to tie it into Before Watchmen. I don't know if you guys read that or care about it, but I really liked it, so I will tie it in as best as I can. Hold on tight, and let's go ahead and get into the CW TV review. I wish I had some cue music. That'd be awesome. Dun-dun-dun-dun. So we're going to start off with the Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2. Now, this brought me back a really funny memory. A friend of mine came back from Shaun of the Dead movie, and he said it was a movie about zombies taking over London, and this one dude didn't notice for the entire movie because he figured British people were just stuck up and slow or something. So that was my stoner friend's review of Shaun of the Dead, and it kind of ruined the movie because what I saw was not like it. I actually like Shaun of the Dead now, but at the time I was pissed off. Same thing with the Legends of Tomorrow. When I saw the cliffhanger from the first season, which by the way I recommend you guys to go check out. Just like the Flash first season, it's top notch. If spoilers for season 1 and for season 2, because I'm reviewing it. If you saw the ending of the first season, you saw the Justice Society. So here I was thinking, oh man, the Legends are gonna go and team up with the Justice Society for the entire season, and we're gonna get to see the Black Hawks. We're gonna see maybe old school versions of Batman and Superman. Sure, I was dreaming, but sure, maybe not them, but we might have seen old school versions of an Amazonian, maybe Blue Beetle, the original. We might have seen old timey heroes from the 1940s DC comics. We could have had some magic folks like Dr. Fate in there, etc. I was very excited. And then the TV show took us to a very different place. And when the second season started, I was very unhappy. I was like, this is not going where I want it to go. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I was acting like all the all the reviewers out there who want to see their wishes come true instead of what the TV show is offering. And I was really kind of it really helped when the series took a break because it gave me time to think about my feelings about the show. And then when it came back, I started to actually enjoy it a little bit more. I was like, it's not so much about my wishes, it's about what they're giving me. And what they gave us this season, I was really, really surprised. One of the gems was Vixen and Steel, both Steels. They were pretty damn awesome. The relationship between Vixen and Steel kind of took me by surprise. I was like, wow, really? These characters are really cool. I really like them, It's nice to have, good representation of diversity in TV. And one of the things that I found myself chuckling, how much of a comparison Steel was made to Captain America. And I say it was delightful to me because I actually managed to talk to a lot of people online and send them over to Action Comics #1, where Mr. America made its debut way before Captain America. And Mr. America is it's a DC property. If I was hired by DC, I would revamp that character as soon as possible. Sure, in my eyes, it might have contributed a great deal to the Captain America icon because, heroic and patriotism was rampant during that age. So I was glad to see that, Steel was brought in here in this show. And had an awesome, biracial relationship, which I always love. Also, I really enjoyed Miss Lance as captain. It's kind of nice because we're talking about the Lance of Destiny, and Miss Lance is the captain. So we have a kind of nice motif in there. But I liked her, her relationships with a couple of the ladies in the season, especially when they visit Camelot. That was kind of delightful. Also, when she was trying to seduce a French lady, that was great. So yeah, I like diversity. This show has a nice sense of diversity. And one of the things that I was really unhappy is they kind of get rid of Rip Hunter for a little bit, and I didn't realize how much I missed him until he came back. But it was kind of bittersweet that he wasn't the captain, because I think if we had kept him as a captain, I wouldn't have cared as much by missing him. So it was a really good execution on their part, and really, they know better than I do. I was like, no, I want my Rip Hunter captain, and they made me miss him, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty damn cool. Now about the villains, originally I thought we were gonna get like a really big, version of the Legion of Doom, and I was like disappointed at first that they only had like one or two people, but then I realized that, well, it's better if they focus on these people, because much to my sadness, Barman, who plays Merlin, he's not coming back to the Arrowverse, and it's very, very sad, so I didn't know it at the time that he was leaving Arrow, but seeing him as one of the central villains in season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow made me love this show a lot more, because Barrowman is really, really awesome. He's a nice person. He always has awesome stuff on his social media, but he plays the characters really, really well. So I'm glad that he got a chance to shine. Also, the Reverse Flash as a central villain, I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. And the fact that he was fleeing from the Speed Force just made it really, really interesting. And completing the triad of the triangle of villainy, we had Damien Dark. that was kind of surprising addition because I was like, oh, okay. So you have the speedster, the marksman, and the magic dude. So that kind of completed the trifecta of the villains, and I was really really damn happy once I saw how they interacted, and the fact that by only having 3 bad guys, they were able to use side characters like Capone, and stuff like that. So I was pretty damn happy, and like I said, there were some beautiful surprises, like there was the episode where they went to the moon and you had Reverse Flash stuck with the Atom. That was pretty damn awesome. Going back into dinosaur time, that was fun. The awesome speech that they give to the people fighting in the war. Straight up quotation from Tolkien. That was pretty damn awesome. The 1950s episode where they go into like a Nazi bar and start punching Nazis. Yeah, that's always a good time, right? But yeah, I really appreciated all the characters' growth. The new additions to the team are pretty awesome. Yeah, and even I wanted more of a Captain Cold. I wanted to see more of Captain Cold, but I think it's just my personal fanboyism because I really like the actor. He's gone on record saying that he deals with depression and stuff, and I really want him to know that we DC fans really like his work, but not to undercut, like all the other people. But I think that really the one character who gave us a lot to love was none other than Rory. Heatwave, Dominic Purcell. Yeah, with his raspy voice. Seriously, I think he stole the show. Seriously, he was really, really wonderful. All the actors were. But yeah, I think that Rory really came into his own, and the 4-parter episode with the aliens attack by the DC Arrowverse was really damn wonderful. And before I wrap up the awesome season they had, big shout out to Lance Henriksen. He was guest star as Obsidian. He really made me want to watch Aliens 2 again. So thank you so much. So yeah, almost 10 minutes. And, I was pleasantly surprised with season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. Moving on to Supergirl. I do believe that moving her to the CW was a really good choice by the producers. One of the things that always struck to me was that if the first season was mostly about empowering women, the second season was mostly about her superpowers. I think that the second season built upon her powers and her mythology and actually added characters who would not only rival her powers, but also ask the questions of when should you use it, how should you use it, and things like that. So it became a little bit more in-depth. First off the bat, there were a couple of really good episodes that if you didn't watch Supergirl, you might just randomly spot them on and be like, wow, that's really empowering. One of them in particular was the appearance of Livewire again. And this one, you might think, well, there's nothing really that huge about it. And actually it is. It was written by 4 women. It was directed by a woman. And it featured a woman superhero and a woman protagonist. I wrote a lot about it on Twitter. And some of the, female activists who usually trash DC Comics didn't say anything about it or promoted it. Hopefully now with Wonder Woman coming out, they can go back to my podcast and be like, hey, Warner Brothers does care about women. But, that's one really cool episode. Another one dealt with alien xenophobia. And another one dealt with this awesome bond between African-American, Jimmy Olsen and a little kid who people freak out because of the way he looks. Really emotional stuff, 3 wonderful episodes that are connected to each other just by the show alone. And I think that's when you have a really good, strong writing team, is when you have these one-off breakout episodes that even people that don't watch can just tune in and watch and be like, whoa, that's really cool. You know, I believe that, throughout the season, they had some really strong character additions. For instance, one of the nice things is that you introduce, Lex's sister, which is pretty damn awesome. And, the fact that they changed the name from Luthor Corp to L Corp. You have Katie McGrath playing Lena Luthor. She's pretty damn awesome. I actually enjoy that addition. Because it gives Supergirl someone to relate on a little bit more personal level. Also Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. There was some controversy because, if you want to upset people, you always try to say it's the opposite of what you give them. So, for instance, if Henry Cavill was like super muscular, they would say like, oh, he's too beefy. So for instance, over here with this portrayal of Superman, they would say like, well, he's not as beefy as Henry Cavill, or the opposite. Oh, look, a Superman who's actually happy, not like Cavill. So the haters are always going to look for the opposite to complain. I like the fact that this Superman is seasoned, and he's the plus one. This Superman is not the star of the show. A lot of male rights activists are pissed off about that. Same thing why they wanted to have, a Joker-centric Suicide Squad movie where the Joker was actually, in the movie, was a plus one to Harley Quinn. So sometimes these bigger characters are better if they are supportive characters, because we've had plenty of, mainstream characters, and highlighting some of the lesser-known characters are pretty awesome. This season in particular, with Monel, really gave us a nice character to play off Kara, and it was actually a really endearing relationship that they became. He started off as a Daxamite who was kind of hedonistic and selfish, and he learns through Kara how to be a better person. And really, really wonderful episode. Another great, addition was the fact that we had a really wonderful supportive cast. People returned from the first season. You had the original Martian Manhunter. You had Jimmy Olsen became more interested in fighting crime. He became Guardian, so that was another nice showcase for the TV network to showcase, what they know best, which is like, really great action. There was a lot more car chases in this season, a lot more close hand-to-hand combat, but also the special effects, they really amp it up, especially when an alien threat shows up or an alien spaceship shows up. They really amped up the budget for this show. The main overall story arc is with the Daxamites. They're really, really awesome. They also introduced a bar where all these aliens kind of hang out, and since I have a green card, that seemed really cool. It's like, oh, cool, I might fit in there. And that's also where Toyman Jr. Kind of met his girlfriend, which at first I was like, wow, why did she seem really engaging? Like, I was like, wow, I'm staring at her eyes all the time. And I think it's because she was actually in a couple of British TV shows like The Tudors, and those kind of like epic romance period pieces. And I was like, that's where I know her from. She was actually going to be Daenerys in the HBO pilot for Game of Thrones, so that's where I know that actress from. Really, really cool. We also had Dean Cain back as Kara's dad. And I think, one of the best characters to return is actually Alex Danvers. She had a really, really wonderful story arc, where she, kind of came out of the closet and fell in love with this amazing detective called Maggie Sawyer, played by Florina Lima. Now, I'm hoping that since Florina Lima has a limited schedule on season 3, maybe they start not to separate, because it's a really great relationship, but maybe you can introduce Officer Montoya. Since Gotham's not really going to do anything with her, maybe you can introduce Officer Montoya as the Question. Just throwing it out there, I don't know what the season 3 entails, but I know that they posted something about a poll. How would you like to see the Red Lanterns in season 3 of Supergirl? And some people said maybe 1 or 2 episodes, to introduce it. Not too much, because we're just getting into the happy stuff, So we also had Terry Hatchett came back as Rhea, which is Monel's mom. It's great to see, Terry Hatchett and Dean Cain back in these TV shows. It pays homage and respect to the old actors who were here before the new generation. Now, if I had one breakthrough character, one simple character that kind of stole the show and kind of won me over and stuff like that. I don't know. There's a lot of them. Kara for sure. She's definitely the main protagonist. But I think, overall, everybody really, really played it really well. But if I had to pick one, oh man, you guys are going to hate me for this. I'm going to pick Ian Gomez playing Snapper Carr. Hear me out, okay? Yes, he started off as a jerk. Yes, he betrays the Justice League in the comics. But this character, he came up with a really good balance, check and balances for Kara as a reporter, and kind of became a mentor, One of the greatest quotes that he had in the TV show was like, hey, one misprint and we're in the middle of a recession. One misquote and you put a fascist in the White House. It's pretty damn spot on that journalism keeps bad people in check. And that's the kind of depth that they delved into season 2 of Supergirl. Overall, I was really freaking impressed. It's great when Supergirl is one of the best shows, and that's in any TV network. I was pretty happy. Hopefully it wins People's Choice Award again, because season 1 actually managed that. So I think a stronger season grants another season's People's Choice Award. Cool, thanks. Now on to Flash. How I always say that if I don't really like something from DC, I refrain from talking about it. And it was hard to do with season 3, not only because it's not what I would have wanted, and it's really hard because, looking back on the show, I was, there's going to be major spoilers, by the way, here, guys. At first, I was like, yes, they're going to do Flashpoint, yes. And then they didn't do Flashpoint from the comics. I was kind of like, okay, what are you going to give me? And there was a lot of memes going around between seasons 2 and 3 about Barry Allen just messing up the timeline. They used the F word. Barry, you effed up a timeline. There's a lot of memes, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm done with this show, which no one's really done with the show. Star Trek did a lot of stupid stuff between seasons. Some stupid stuff got them canceled. Same thing with X-Files, which I love. Same Smallville, for God's sake. Every season finale of Smallville seemed like it was the last of the show. I don't know if they were like, we're going to cancel you. And so then they had to make like an awesome season finale or something. But it was really, really hard to watch some of the season's finales because I was like, okay, where are you going with this? Because I knew that the Smallville budget was very small. No pun intended. So they only had money for one good, big, boisterous episode at the beginning, the season mid finale, season mid opening, and then season finale. So you had 4 hours of, big budget movie to play with, and then, sprinkled some good shows. The first season of The Flash changed all that for me, and prior to that, much kudos to Heroes, because the first season of Heroes was perfect. So likewise, season 2 of Flash was way darker. I still think that Zoom is by far the best villain, although Reverse Flash is a close second, having also starred in Legends of Tomorrow, season 2. So I was quite happy. Those two characters are pretty damn fun. So I was like, who the hell is Savitar? And the fact that a lot of fans were like, you suck, Barry Allen, for disturbing, the timeline continuum and breaking time, and I hope you pay. So when they revealed that they were going to kill off Iris West, I was like, oh, fuck. I really love Iris West. Especially with this particular actress who's really adorable. I always like people's eyes, and Candace has one of the most beautiful eyes. And, she makes me cry. I'm not going to lie. When she's crying, I'm like, oh, man. You feel like you're really disappointed someone that you would like to know in a real person. Same thing with Joe West, man. Those two, if they get teary-eyed, I get teary-eyed. I'm just like, man. So I was really hoping that they didn't kill Iris West or Joe West, and then, spoiler alert, much to my surprise, oh man, they didn't kill off neither of them. They killed off a character that you were like, you started off hating, it's like, oh, he's going to be the comedic effect guy, he's going to be, the Jar Jar Binks or whatever, the fool who tags along with the heroes. This guy's annoying. Why are they putting him in this show? Oh my god, his puns are stupid, but he really grew on you. And when this particular character is taken out in the finale, you're like, no, you're like, it can't be him. And then you're like, oh my god, they played us all for a fool, which is great. It's like, that's great storytelling, the fool who tags along with the heroes, ends up saving the day on the season finale. Now, throughout the whole season, we had some really cool stuff. We had a lot of Jake Garrick, which is nice. I really love Jake Garrick as a first Flash. I think it's great that the original 1990s TV show star, he is Jake Garrick. I love it. We also had a lot of Cisco. I think in this season alone, Cisco was some of the jewel of this season is Cisco. For me, it's not because he's a Latino guy and I'm Latino. I was like, yeah, there's more than that. The fact that he's a really cool character. He really comes into his own. He knows what he's talking about. He's not as immature as before. We're like, I'm nerdy, and that's all who I am. He really has more depth to him. So I was really, happy, and he might get a nice relationship, which is pretty cool. Caitlin Snow is no longer with the show. Now we just have Killer Frost, which is what I always wanted. And I think every fan out there really just wanted Killer Frost. Now, whether or not Killer Frost just becomes a another superpowered member of Team Flash. It's we might not know, but we'll see. We'll see in the next one. And the fact that we have two new runners, speedsters, Jesse Quick and Wally West, that kind of completed the family. And I think that I see a lot of male support for Jesse Quick. I think a lot of people online are in love with that actress. I just liked her eyes. They're just blue. She has like a beautiful smile too. So maybe that's why anime is popular, because we focus a lot on the eyes and as a window to the soul. So hopefully we get more of Jesse Quick and Wally West. I think Wally West, he was kind of the reason why a lot of people found him annoying at first was because he was just whining about his powers. But let's be honest, once he got his powers, boom, he took off. I think that he's great. I think that Wally West actually will be the star of season 4. And I think if I have any predictions, it's going to be Wally West for the entirety of the season. We might get Bart Allen. Why do I think we're going to get Bart Allen? Because at the end of this season, we see Barry Allen sacrifice himself to go into the Speed Force. And, sure, he might come back, but someone has to be there, trapped in there in exchange for Savitar. And it might be Bart Allen because they are developing a Teen Titans TV show, which I will talk about at the end of this podcast when I review the DC TV streaming network. So if we have Wally West as the main Flash, it's going to be awesome because it's going to have a focus on an African American version of Wally West. Currently in the comics, there's 2 Wally Wests. There is, the original Ginger White Kid, and then there's the awesome African American too that we have from this TV show also. So if we have one Wally West as the Flash, it's going to be awesome. That'll give us a chance to explore Bart Allen, and this time instead of Kid Flash being the apprentice, Wally is going to be like the mentor to Impulse, Bart Allen from the future. If we do that, Bart Allen might come back and say, hey, you need to bring back Barry Allen. He's a key or whatever. You might also get the chance to introduce the Teen Titans TV show. Bart could become a Teen Titan, or maybe Wally West is going to go to the Teen Titans. And yeah, I mean, this is how awesome this show is. It just kind of gives you all these awesome ideas. And I think that, sometimes people have to be careful what they wish for. A lot of people were giving Barry Allen a lot of crap for changing the timeline. And once we realized that Savitar, spoiler alert, once we learned who he was, you're kind of like, oh man, that's dark. Man, that's a horrible punishment for Barry Allen. And I think it's like it takes courage, to pull off these kind of seasons, to be like, hey, you hated Barry Allen, now you got it. All right, that's it for season 3 of Flash. A lot of people said it wasn't their favorite. For me, it was really different than the first 2, darker than the first 2. But it gave us some room to breathe, and I think that. I was really pleasantly surprised when the actor who played, Malfoy showed up, and I'm like, you know what? I want more of him. He needs to become some kind of a superhero too. So yeah, you have those pleasant surprises where you're like, wow, he's in the show. Wow, he's in the show. And yeah, looks like we're gonna get a new villain for season 4 who's not a speedster. I think they're gonna focus on the rogues. Awesome. All right, that's it for Flash Review Season 3. And we've come to Arrow. Wow. Just wow. A lot of fanboys, started to talk trash of Arrow after season 3, halfway through it. Season 2 was amazing of Arrow. One of the best seasons on television, period. I remember season 2 was so popular that we saw reruns while we traveled in France during prime time, 8 p.m. time slot. And I think one of the reasons why it was so popular overseas while we were there is that they don't let kids watch TV during the school year. So basically they binge watch Arrow during the summer straight up. Seems like a cool reward for kids. And, if your kid's up at 8 p.m., you can judge what kind of level of TV, violence you can allow them to watch. So after the third season, it always happens with these franchises, if the first movie was great, then they might trash the second for not living up to the first one. Or if the second one does better than the first one, then they're like, well, the third one sucked because it wasn't as good as the second one. So they're always trying to compare it to the best one. It happens with movies, it happens with albums, it always happens with seasons. So I think, it's rather unfair that people, have become so gluttonous, and, are spoiled like that. I haven't heard a single movie review say that the Marvel movies suck because they don't live up to the first Avengers movie. They get a leeway. But with DC it's a little bit different, right? Everything has to be better than the last one. So, however, Stephen Amell came back season 4, all pumped up. We saw him at Comic-Con, ready to go, new outfit, and Damien Darhk seemed like a really cool villain, and that didn't seem to it was better than the third season, for sure, but that didn't quench the thirst of a lot of fanboys. So then they're like, okay, I see what you did there, and I think a lot of people, the bandwagon fans who originally liked Arrow, and then they wanted to go to the new kid on the block, the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen over at Netflix, who can't do as many episodes or have as much budget as Arrow, but whatever. They're like, oh my god, Daredevil is like gritty as hell. Well, in this season, Arrow himself skinned a person alive in the episode of Capuchin, which is the Russian word for hood. So, yeah, the ball's in your court now. Netflix, red dude, red Batman. But no. With all due honesty, I'm gonna go on record and say this is the best season of Arrow yet. It is better than the second season. One of the reasons why I liked it is that Slate Wilson was always, playing head games with Arrow. There was a clear cut, flashbacks to, to the origin of Deathstroke and, Mirakuru, stuff like that. So it was very cohesive. But that was only the second season. The fifth season, not only did it manage to live to the amount of dark and grittiness of the first and second season, but I think it went back to the first season as far as, Arrow killing people. And it was very dark and gritty, and it was pretty badass. And then Prometheus, the bad guy, showed up, and we're like, I hope this is not like a clone or Arrow from the future or any of that stuff, right? But no, we were in for quite a treat, because sometimes these villains are like, oh, I'm always 10 steps ahead of you, and usually they're not. But this one, we were like, oh, come on, catch up to him, and they never did. He was always like, straight up villainy, like really, really good. I mean, Slate Wilson was really good. But this guy just took it up to another whole level. He messed up with psychologically with him, made him quit, a couple times, and made him realize that he was a killer and he liked it. And, it was just like, oh my God, this guy really got into Arrow. Like, at first I was like, oh yeah, no, they're just going to take another obscure bad guy, make him look kind of like Arrow. But no, they went full on. And I have to say the writing on this season was superb. Even Felicity Smoke, who a lot of fanboys tend to hate, she did her own hacking side story, which I thought was very, very interesting with Helix. We got more depth into Wild Dog and his family. A very endearing friendship with Mr. Terrific springing up. We also had to... we didn't see this character for very much, but he made a great impression. Rags. He was great in here. Also, we had someone betray, the crew. That was kind of like hurtful. Also, John Barrowman, who played Malcolm Merlin, he left the show in a big bang. And we're sorry to see him go. Lucky for us, he's still on Legends Season 2 for us to enjoy. He won't be coming back for Season 3 of Legends or anything. He's pretty packed up with his schedule, though. So we are going to miss him. And, Officer Lance is getting his life back together after dealing with rehab. Speedy, same thing. We need to see her either leave the show or don the costume again, because she's getting lost in translation. But that's okay. Arrow needs like a moral compass, and this season his sister wasn't as there for him as she should have been, and it's a nice change of pace to have like a normal character who's not going through a lot of crap in their life, and that was Thea. In this season we thought we were gonna have like a nice relationship between Oliver Queen and his feisty reporter girlfriend. That was cut short. And for all its intents and purposes, the Russia flashbacks were so freaking good. I'm actually kind of jealous that there isn't going to be like a super cut of Arrow where they play it chronologically. I think that Warner Brothers, if you're listening, please do this, where you have Arrow chronologically, maybe digital, have like a special cut of the seasons, or like Arrow chronologically, because while the United States was going through the Russian hacking thing, it was very interesting to see Arrow deal with the Russian mafia. I was like, oh damn, this is going to get pretty heavy. And it got pretty heavy. There was a lot of gun play. There was even an entire episode which caught a lot of headlines for being the gun episode, where they tried to have a nice message. I did a very lengthy analysis of that episode. I will include it in my description. And you had this breakthrough season where they had even one giant breakthrough episode that made national headlines about gun violence. And that finale, oh man, how do you wrap up 5 years, being on an island and on and off, and 5 years of Arrow stories? You bring back all these, cool characters. You have like the best fight ever. You have the moment of choice at the end in the boat between Prometheus, Arrow, and the hostage, and you ended up with a giant bang. Now, I've seen some cynics who say like, well, if such and such and such and such and such and such return and they're alive, I'm gonna quit the show. But I have to remind everybody that X-Files did this all the time. Star Trek, Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, Deep Space Nine. Doctor Who sometimes leaves in a giant, oh my god, maybe he's dead. So all these really cool TV shows have a cliffhanger where like you think everyone's dead, So I think that for those people, buzz off. We don't need you. You've been bandwagon fans. And this is the best season of Arrow. I am very happy. This is one of those seasons that you might want to go back and check out on Blu-ray. I have a 4K TV, and having this on Blu-ray 4K might be really nice. So I'm really looking forward to rewatching this season because it's the best one. And I don't know what they're gonna do for season 6. All that I'm hoping is that there's an iconic mustache and goatee, which Mr. Amell has promised. And if you get the chance, go ahead and check him out on the celebrity fundraiser for American Ninja Gladiator competition. He proved that he's still pretty badass, doing a lot of his own stunts, So yeah, pretty damn happy. Arrow is still pretty damn awesome. Alrighty, so coming up in the CW, we have the preview of Black Lightning. Now, a little bit of history. In 1973, the TV show Super Friends was debuted by Hanna-Barbera on a lot of kids' TV show networks. And they created this character called Black Vulcan. They did it so that they wanted to have more diversity in the DC, staple of superheroes. And one of the coolest things is that eventually in 1977, this character of Black Lightning was introduced, created by Tony Isabella and Trevor Von Eden. You can clearly see his, I wouldn't say classic costume, but it's the classic costume that we see, in the latest incarnations, from Alex Ross paintings and also Final Crisis, So you see that iconic character, not the one that originally he appeared in with like a collar, like a pop collar, kind of like a running t-shirt, like a windbreaker. So you see that classic costume in the television pilot that we got to see like a little bit of a teaser. So it starts off as as a classic superhero, hangs up the cape per se, and becomes a teacher. Later on, when things get really bad in his city, he modifies the costume a little bit and comes back with more badass superpowers. At first, I was like, I don't know what to think about it. And then I realized that, I watched it a couple more times, and I was like, yeah. Now, like I mentioned on my previous podcast, DC, especially with Warner Brothers, has always had, faith in, African-American superhero, whether or not it was, financially successful or received well by the public. It doesn't really matter. They stuck to their guns and they kept making them. For instance, we had Steel with Shaquille O'Neal. Some people are like, forget that. Okay, so then they released Spawn through New Line Cinema from Image Comics. Some people liked it, some people didn't. They even did like an animated show on HBO, which was pretty damn awesome. Thank you, Warner Brothers, because HBO is also owned by Warner Brothers. Later on, they tried it with New Line Cinema again. Instead of Image, they went with Marvel Comics, and David Goyer wrote Blade. That was still under New Line Cinema, technically still Warner Brothers. And then later on, they did Catwoman with Halle Berry, which is pretty cool, because now we have Wonder Woman. And a lot of people are like, I might want to check out Catwoman, even if it wasn't the greatest critical hit. But, Warner Brothers had faith in the African-American superhero motif, and also with women-centric, heroes a long time ago. So yeah, even as going as far as, Supergirl in the 80s, they still had faith in female superheroes. So yeah, diversity is always pretty damn awesome. And one of the things that I like about this show, speaking as a minority, is that it gives you range. I believe Milestone Comics. They wanted to have their own imprint of comics to have a whole variety of minorities, because one of the problems that I see is, like, for instance, like when you have a lack of diverse characters, you have like one token minority who represents everybody, and if you have like an entire cast of who happens to be minorities, you can have everything. You can have a loner, you can have somebody who's social, you can have somebody who's sad, somebody who's happy, somebody who's a hero, somebody who's a villain, somebody who, gives back to the community, someone who's selfish. You have variety if you have diversity in the entire cast. So it's really nice to see this in this TV show. Wildly, one day I was like, man, Blue Beetle would make a great TV show if they get like a joint production with Telemundo and stuff like that. Oddly enough, there's already a Mexican wrestler called Blue Demon, and he has his own TV series. I'm like, dude, that's pretty kick-ass. So yeah, my family's watching that one. But anyways, Black Lightning is showing a lot of promise. The dude looks like he can kick some ass. He's got some awesome, kung fu moves. He's got some awesome equipment. The budget seems to be there. I was really intrigued with some of the cinematography, which is pretty nice. I like the camera angles. There's one scene when it's raining, and he looks up to a street lamp, and the street lamp kind of starts going on and off, and I'm like, oh man, stuff's about to go down. I always like when creators are allowed to create different camera angles, the composition, the light, rain, movement. There's a lot of, when you see all these things in a TV show, it makes you excited. There's a lot of TV shows that for over a decade, all the enhancement they had was the shaky cam BS. It's like, well, that can only get you so far. It makes your head kind of spin and be like, ugh, I don't want to see this. So I'm glad that Black Lightning has really good talent, behind and in front of the camera. So yeah, I'm going to be watching this, and I'm still catching up on, all the other TV shows. I had Preachers in my backlog, Lucifer's in my backlog, and I'm still catching up in Gotham. So, I'm going to have to amp up my game, man. But yes, hopefully this gets picked up to a full 20 plus episodes. I would like to see perhaps Static X as a sidekick, or maybe one of his daughters can take up the mantle of Black Lightning, because then Black Lightning would be a female, and then you can have Static X, be the sidekick. That would be like diverse squared. But anyways, I'm really looking forward to this show. I like it. Alright, so the last topic that we want to talk about for this podcast is the DC streaming network. That's going to be all superheroes all the time. A lot of people online were kind of like shocked that, they would do this. But I think it's pretty damn evident. First and foremost, if superheroes are a fad, what better way to stream all your favorite shows in a separate network? If superheroes are not a fad and are in fact here to stay for like a decade or 2 decades, what better way to accommodate more variety of TV shows than have our own network? It's a win-win situation. It's also the reason why someone as prestigious as David Lynch has often said that cinema, the art cinema as we know it, is dead, and that television streaming is the way to go. Which I kind of agree. It's kind of a bummer that people don't support art movies here in the States. They do so in other countries. And actually, cinema attendance is upwards in all other countries. I've gone to France and Mexico in the past couple of years, and there's a lot of beautiful cinemas. They have better concessions than we do, more variety, cheaper tickets, and they have more screens. Here in the States, it seems that because we have the internet and fast connections, we're kind of becoming complacent and abandoning the cinema. So a streaming network for superheroes seems to be pretty damn awesome. Now, I did argue with some fool online who I believe got banned from this group, who was arguing that there isn't enough content for DC TV to be doing this. But he was comparing it to a streaming network for pirate anime. Well, you can't compare one network to a genre. I'm not going to compare Disney animated features to ESPN. So that his argument was pretty dead in the water, but it did bring out some certain points, is that people are really unaware of what Warner Brothers has to offer. For instance, there are the movie serials, which were in the 40s, much to my surprise. There was one of Congo Jim, in like an African adventure, Indiana Jones kind of adventure, 15 serial movies. There's also the Blackhawks, which were amazing Air Force pilots during World War II. I think there's also 15 episodes, 15 short movies, 15 short movies of Superman, black and white, movie serials, and also Batman and Robin movie serials. So you already have 15 in 4 shows that I mentioned. That is 60 episodes of streaming content, and that's from the 40s. We still, haven't mentioned the Max Fleischer cartoons, the amazing radio program of Superman with over 2,000 episodes. And anybody says who Christopher Reeves is their favorite Superman, well, I'm sorry, but 2,000 radio episodes kind of makes you the best Superman, in my opinion. But, they're all great Superman, in my opinion. But if you had to choose one, I have to give it to the guy who did 2,000 episodes, because that's a lot. And they also fought the KKK on the radio. But anyways, so you have the Superman radio show, which also count as media. You can stream it, kind of like some podcasts on SoundCloud, so you can have that option. We haven't even touched like the seminal ones, like the Richard Donner Superman movies. There's 4 of them. You can also stream it, maybe perhaps with they're not TV shows, but you can stream maybe the films as well as documentaries, or maybe not touch those. So far we just have TV shows. In that case, we would jump to the TV show Batman from 1960s. We also have the Linda Carter Wonder Woman TV show. We have the cartoons of the Super Friends, and that's just in the 80s. We also had the Swamp Thing TV show series. We also had the Adventures of Lois and Clark TV show. We had Superboy TV show. And that's just to name a few. Now, most recently, we had TV shows like Birds of Prey. We had Smallville, which lasted for 10 seasons. So you're starting to build up the library, I haven't tallied up all the episodes, but we're pretty much well over, several thousand. I mean, if we count the 2,000 radio shows that the Superman radio show did, we're well over 3,000 to 4,000 episodes, right? So yeah, there is plenty of superhero TV content, but we're also looking at a new TV content. For instance, I remember when the CW was running Smallville, they had the Chloe Chronicles, which were separate little vignettes. I mean, you could run it like that. Right now, on the side, animated show of Vixen. That's also a TV show. It's running on the CW Seed. Constantine hasn't been picked up as a full series, but it is going to get its own animated TV show That's also can go in there. Young Justice Season 3 can also go up in there. So you're starting to see that there is a lot of variety. Now, one of the shows that I'm really looking forward to is Teen Titans. That's also going to be there in the new network. But I think that if they really want to bring it all together, if they're not going to do Infinite Crisis on the big screen as a sequel to Justice League, which I think they should, I think you need to have a TV show like Legends of Tomorrow, but with the multiverse variety. Just simply that, so that we can get like a break of the regular slate of TV. For instance, we can have like a multiversity. You can even name the TV show Multiversity. And you can jump from different eras, like you can do one TV episode about 1930s Batman when he had guns and he had those purple gloves, he was just starting out. It would be beautiful if you set it up and, shot it correctly. You can also have like a TV show or an episode of these, like a multiversity TV show episode dedicated about, Superman, Red Sun. You can explore that. You can explore Watchmen or before Watchmen. The sky's the limit, One thing I forgot to mention, is like also Kid Commandy by Jack Kirby. That is an entire awesome vision that deserves like at least some kind of visit from a TV show, maybe Legends of Tomorrow. Maybe that's what Legends of Tomorrow Season 3 is going to be about. I don't know. So yeah, there is tons of content from DC Comics. And, let's say that a certain network doesn't want to do Preacher. Guess what? Come to our network. If a certain TV show doesn't want to do Lucifer, hey, come to our show. If, for instance, Fox doesn't want to renew Gotham, guess what? Take 2 years off, make Gotham PD, age the characters, move forward. Boom, you have a success in your head. Because it's a Batman show, Batman can have a costume. But then you also get the entire crime drama of, older versions of the Gotham Police Department, which is pretty damn awesome already, in my opinion. So yeah, there's plenty of material. We're pushing 80 years here over at DC Comics, and there's more. I mean, Young Animal, who would have thought that was like a good idea several years ago? But now I'm actually like checking out some of these episodes, man. So yeah, I didn't comment on this on my podcasts because I wanted to kind of wait and let my mind digest it all, and I think it's a pretty brilliant idea.